just like the movie,
all making sense.
So we'll see how it goes.
It's just on theme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, and welcome to Spooky Sips, where we put our love of horror movies into a podcast and sip some spirits along the way. I'm one of your hosts, Yvette, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Laura and Brianna.
Hello.
Hey. All right, so we just finished watching the most 2012 movie I think exists. Like when my children ask me one day, what was 2012 like? I'll just play them this movie because I feel like it's accurate. You know?
It really is.
So basically it's about 5 college students, group of friends. They go to like one of the guy's cousins' remote cabin in the woods for the weekend. Okay. And it all goes downhill from there. They get it to the cellar, and once there, shit begins. And that's all we'll say. But that's the movie in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I just have to say, I don't know what rock I have been living under.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard the name of this movie. I've never seen this movie. I have never heard like plots of this movie. I went in thinking we were going to watch some movie about a horror story of kids being in a cabin in the woods. Y'all, I was in for a wild ride. I had no idea the cluster F that this movie would become.
Oh my God.
Literally, I was shocked. I was not expecting it. I had no idea. I was pleasantly delighted in the twists and turns upon turns upon turns that this movie took.
Oh, I can't believe this was your first time watching it.
First time. Yeah.
Well, and I think that I only saw it when it came out. Like, I haven't seen it since then. So, pretty foggy. But I love how the movie pulls off having us as the audience feel like we are the one that's not in the know. Like, it should be obvious what's happening. Like, especially once we meet the 2 guys in their suits, like, you know, in their job area, like, we are left feeling like, wait, why don't I know exactly what this is talking about? Like, I love it.
Yeah. No, this is one of those movies that I think is actually drastically improved by not knowing anything about it. Yes. Because the first time I watched it, I had the same idea as Laura, where I think I was just searching for a movie. It was like, I'm in the mood for a spooky movie. And then I had heard the name of this movie. I definitely heard Cabin in the Woods. And I was like, oh, that's classic, right? A haunted, spooky cabin in the woods. This is great. No. Yeah.
No, that's not what happens.
Nope.
It's funny because
it makes it so much better.
Yes.
My husband Jaden was watching he was watching as I was watching it because he's already seen it. So he's on his computer, like kind of just doing his own thing, and he's like watching me watch it for the first time. And he had seen it, and he was like, "I was wondering how you guys picked this movie, like what you were thinking about this movie," because he was like, "This is not what you expect when you first go in."
No.
Because, like, you know, sometimes we always pick the cocktail either as we're watching the movie or after the movie. But I was, you know, it's kind of a quick turnaround. So I was trying to go into this movie thinking, okay, what would be like a cabiny, woodsy drink? And then I'm like, well, that doesn't matter at all.
Not at all. Movie. Don't even worry about that.
Yep.
So good.
All over the place. I love it.
So I feel like we should start at the beginning because the intro of this movie is so weird, right? Like, the name of the movie is Cabin in the Woods. Yeah. You get the kind of spooky intro, right? Of like the blood, like droopy red with, you know, the like kind of the title intro is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, black and red like credits.
Yeah. Which was chocolate, in case anyone was curious. That's how they filmed that. They just used a bunch of melty chocolate.
Nice.
And then we cut to 2 guys in an office.
These 2 just bro guys, like just kind of douchey guys in an office.
Like, I'm guessing if you were watching it the year it came out, like this would also be, but they're like 2 pretty popular actors that are like serious. For the most part, I had only known them from serious roles. So I'm thinking, wait, is this like a drama? Like, did I choose the wrong movie?
Yeah. Well, and
like, I remember thinking that when I first watched it.
I thought so too. I thought I
like the one guy from West Wing. I was like, what the hell is this? Like,
no, and like, and they, I think maybe the very first word out of their mouths is something like, it's hormonal or something. They're basically just bashing on his wife who's trying to get pregnant. She's going to jinx it by talking about, by baby proofing the house before they're even pregnant.
Right.
But yeah, no, I totally thought I was watching the wrong movie. I was like, what in the world?
That is 100% what they were hoping for. Good. The writers of this movie. They were like, wouldn't it be funny if people thought they were in the wrong movie? Yeah. And then what's funny though is that then when the studio was reviewing it, they were like, hey guys, we're concerned people are going to think they're in the wrong movie. And they were like, okay, yeah, fair. That was kind of the plan.
Yeah, that was the point, man.
It absolutely worked.
Love it.
Yeah, but it's like, that's not going to make you leave the theater.
No one's going to get up and
no one's going to be like, I better just go.
No, but it's just
it's not like it lasted that long. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
So I thought it was funny. I feel like that was kind of like, I think the idea was, they wanted to make this horror movie. It's like, how can they start it though in not the same way that these horror movies usually start?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was a solid intro into the movie, and that you're going to be confused, but you're going to be confused the whole time watching this movie.
Oh yeah, totally. No, they pulled it off great.
Yeah.
Because then pretty quickly they go to scenes of just teens getting ready to go on the what do they call it? They're like, we've got a lake and a keg, which sounds awesome to me.
I mean, yeah.
Right.
They're just gonna go for a weekend away to the guy's cousin's cabin on the lake.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But as they like drive there, you see some creep on the house of one of them as they're leaving, and he's like messaging people like, okay, like the eagles have left the nest or whatever. Like he's
the gas station. Well, they stop at the gas station at the beginning. I think that's who you're thinking of.
Oh, was it from the gas station?
Oh no, that's right. No,
house?
Above the building. I forgot about that guy.
Yeah, that had like the spy. Gear on.
I totally forgot about that. Yeah, they like zoom out and then you see the guy with an earpiece. Like,
because then that was my first thinking of like, wait, what? This is not just like some cabin in the woods. Like people are orchestrating them going to the woods.
Right.
Like, but then, then you're right. Then they go to the gas station.
Yes.
And then the gas station owner was so creepy.
Yeah.
And he's like, there's all this ominous music.
Yes.
And he's kind of giving them warnings, like, don't go to the Buckner place.
Yep.
Or like no one goes, or
Yeah.
Or like you know how to get there, you don't know how to get back and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like just bad omens all around.
It very much gave me Final Destination vibes.
Yeah.
Like not the same plot at all, but just the feel of this movie to me felt like Final Destination vibes.
Yeah. Yep. It was very seen straight out of a horror movie. Like that's the thing. It's like you're like, when you're watching this movie, you're like flashing back and forth between, this is just a horror movie and there's something going on bigger than the horror movie.
Yes, exactly. I also kept noticing the gas station owner and how he had that like burst blood vessel in his eye.
Yeah.
Did you all catch that?
Yeah, it's really gross.
It reminded me of a time a few years ago, you guys. I don't know. I think it was like I like sneezed too hard.
What?
Do you remember that? And I got a burst blood vessel in my eye.
I do.
I had this like bloody eye for like a month.
Oh my gosh. No, I do.
Bloody eyed Laura.
I have a friend who gave birth and
that happens a lot.
All of the blood vessels in both of her eyes. So like she's like got all these sweet born pictures. Yeah, and her eyes are just like blood red. It's like that should be in a horror movie because it's very disturbing.
It's so upsetting because there's nothing you can do. It's not like you can cover up your eyes.
You just have to wait. Yeah,
eye patch.
Gross. Yeah, eye patch.
Yeah, I've also had one of those one time.
Yeah,
when
you
I
have.
my LASIK. Yeah, that was cute. I'm a real cute person.
Good times. All right, so we get to the cabin, and at first, like, they seem a little like, ooh, this place is pretty run down. But then they get inside and they're like, okay, it's not bad. Like, we can make this work.
Yeah.
And they like
Is there someone creepy in the house, Brianna?
Just my dog. Just my dog. Hi, Pian
She's being creepy.
Anyway, so they all go to like their rooms, and we should say in the group there's a couple, a stoner guy, and then their friend who is a girl. I can't remember her name. What is it?
Which one? The main,
Dana,
the redhead,
Dana.
Okay, and then a guy that they know, and I can't remember his name either.
His
name is
Holden.
Holden. And their friends are trying to like set him up, basically.
Yeah.
Like they're, you know. So Holden is in his room, and there's this really disturbing painting on the wall of like, I don't even know how you describe
it's like people and dogs, but they're like ripping apart a carcass of something.
Yeah. It's very you don't want to look at that.
I want it as a Halloween decoration, you guys.
But like you wouldn't sleep in a room with that.
I mean, I wouldn't sleep in a room. Well, maybe. Actually, maybe.
She might actually cover that up.
Yeah.
Right.
But so I just want it.
He goes to take it down, and instead he like, it's a window essentially into Dana's room, but he sees her looking like at her face, and he realizes, oh shit, it's a two-way mirror or whatever.
One way.
One way. Yeah. Two-way would be
a window.
The one-way mirror. And at first he's like, oh shit, like, but then she starts undressing, and he's a decent guy. So he's like, whoa, no. So he lets her know.
And the guy that plays Holden is also the guy that plays Avery in Grey's Anatomy.
Grey's Anatomy.
Hottie McHottie.
He's just,
I think I ever got to that point in Grey's.
I
only watched like
that's early.
I watched like half of the first season of all of this.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah. So you didn't get very far at all.
No.
He's just such a beautiful man.
He's
like
beautiful man.
He's just, and we should talk about one of the other guys, the boyfriend, is Chris Hemsworth.
Yes. Also a beautiful man.
Which totally threw me off, because I was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
Because he's like Iron Man or what?
Thor.
Oh, Thor. Okay, same thing.
He's a superhero.
Very close. Well, so funny enough, so while he was shooting this movie, the studio would get the dailies, which is just like the raw kind of footage that they shot that day, just to kind of say like, oh, this is how the movie's going. This is what we've shot so far. And they saw him, Chris Hemsworth, and they cast him in Red Dawn, which was one of the first big movies that he was in. And then 2 days later, they cast him as Thor.
Oh.
So from seeing this movie, he got like 2 very sweet gigs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for him.
So, and then the movie ended up getting a little bit delayed. So this movie actually ended up coming out after Thor, which is kind of funny. Like I feel like seeing him in Thor and then seeing him in this.
Because he looks so much younger in this.
Yeah, he does.
So much.
Right?
Yeah.
I feel like I was really surprised that Thor came out.
Yeah, I never would have guessed that.
Right?
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
So, like, as they're in this cabin, and we should say, too, as they're driving into the cabin, we kind of see the scene of them driving in through, like, a tunnel to get to the cabin.
Yes.
And there's an eagle that's kind of flying with them, and it goes and kind of hits. It almost looks like, if you've seen the Hunger Games, it looks like what happens when there's that force field in the Hunger Games. So you see there's this glitch.
It's so cool. I thought that scene was really cool.
Oh, so cool. So cool.
Well, and it's funny because, like, weirdly enough, I literally just finished rewatching the Hunger Games. Watching this. So I was like, hang on.
Yeah.
So we see that, which is another clue. And then, you know, after, as we're kind of seeing the one-way mirror, it then flashes back to the scientist guys. And they're talking about, you know, oh, we've got to like increase this gas to increase their libido, or there's this other sort of chemical that's going to lower their cognition. Or, the one girl who's part of a couple, Jules, she had just talked about how she dyed her hair. And they said that they snuck this chemical in the hair dye that's going to lower her cognition, basically make her like a dumb blonde.
Yeah. And I do, in the commentary, the writers mentioned that they kind of wish they would have shown her pre all of this, because her character didn't really get to be developed. It was like, because it was supposed to be in her hair, it was like, oh, it's already started taking effect.
Mm-hmm.
So they throw in tiny things of her being like pre-med in college and stuff, but her character didn't really get a little like a pre-influenced
right
showing. Yeah. And I think that would have been nice.
It didn't, but I also feel like that kind of plays into where eventually they go with it, in that her whole role in this movie is to be, for, you know, sorry to be crude, but this is how they say it in the movie. Her whole role is to be the whore.
Yeah, like I mean, that's
role is that's what she is. Right. So she's kind of just this dumb blonde, slutty character, and so they don't. I think that kind of plays into it. They didn't need to make her more than that because she was like that token character
too.
But I feel like it's like, but the whole point is that they were kind of like forcing them into these categories, right?
That's
like,
true.
Even Dana, right? I feel like they make a joke about that.
Like she's not
jumping to the end. Yeah, but they're like, the virgin? And they're like, we work with what we've got, okay?
Right.
Like, close enough. Right.
I remember when I first saw this movie at this point, I was thinking like, is this like the Truman Show? Like have these, that's what I was thinking. I was like, wait, have they maybe like always
very
been
Truman
in a
Show
controlled environment? And they're like, that was the first thing.
Which the Truman Show, I know this is, we talk about spooky movies, but the Truman Show is just such a great movie.
Such a great movie. If you haven't seen it, go watch it right now.
It just, this movie made me want to watch the Truman Show.
Yeah, definitely.
But I loved how like as they're communicating, the kind of like douchebag science-y guys in the lab, you know, they're kind of just treating this like, not like a joke, but they're just being kind of crude and like heartless about it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's this dude that they're talking to on the phone, and he's like saying all these like ominous things like the lambs have passed through the gate, and
the guy from the gas station.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the harbinger.
The harbinger. So I was gonna look that up. I just like was looking at my notes that I was gonna look that up, and I don't know what that word is. Does anyone know what that means? The harbinger?
No.
Is that a thing, or is that just like what they said?
I think it's a thing.
That sounds like a thing.
So the harbinger. Well, I was hoping I'd find it faster.
Cut all of this.
Oh wait, it's a film. No, wait, that's a 2022
No,
film.
it's also just a thing. I think it's a person that announces or signals the approach of another.
I've never heard that. I don't think.
That makes
sense.
He's
the harbinger.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
That makes sense. There we go.
No, I loved the scene where he's on speakerphone.
Yes.
You know, because he's treating it as like, oh, you know, I forget how he says everything.
They shall meet their fate eternal or whatever. Like
very biblical, very like
serious.
Yeah. Yes. And like they just have him on speakerphone, like, and they just keep joking about the fact that he's on speaker. Like it really does set up the movie.
It does
very well for what we're about to get into.
Yep. Agreed.
And the guys basically mentioned that they're making bets in the lab. And someone says something about, well, isn't that kind of, you know, you're rigging it and you're setting it up so it's not really that they have a choice. And he says, no, they, you know, the people, the 5 teens that are, you know, in the cabin, they choose what happens in the cellar.
Yeah.
And so they make
like we just get them to the cellar.
Like we get them there and then they choose what happens. So then I was thinking, are they going to make them kill each other? Like that's what I was thinking was maybe going to happen.
Oh, interesting.
But so then they get in. So stuff goes down. They're, you know, the Jules are being slutty. They're drinking,
playing games,
smoking, they're playing games.
Oh, one quick, go ahead.
Can we talk about how disgusting the scene is where she makes out with the dead wolf?
Oh, see, I loved it.
Really?
Of course you did, because we all know who Laura is in our group.
Oh, I'm the whore. I know this.
You know, here's the thing, though. I think we're having the only 2 reactions you can have to this scene, which is either like, please stop, I never want to see that again, or Laura's reaction.
I was like, this is brilliant. Yeah. Love it. Yep. Like, just do it. You get dared to go make out with a dead wolf. Just make out with it. Just do it.
She fully commits.
She did fully commit.
I think they covered the tongue with powdered sugar to
yum.
help her kind of go through the scene.
Beautiful.
No, love it. Love it.
And then another kind of like random fact is when they all go and jump in the lake, we kind of mentioned this is all part of like them getting set up. Marty, who's supposed to be like the stoner, like the Joker, is the only one who doesn't jump in. And that's because I guess the actor who played him is just like jacked. Like he's like super ripped. Like it was like, had he taken his clothes off, he would have made like the other two guys look small.
Oh, damn.
So,
that's awesome.
So that's why he had really baggy clothes on the entire time and like never took his clothes off.
Oh my God.
That's too funny.
That's amazing. Because I was thinking the exact opposite. I was thinking, oh, he probably couldn't take off his shirt because like standing next to,
Hemsworth, Jesse Williams.
Right.
Yeah. I was like, how could you take your shirt off and like feel good about yourself?
Right.
No, but it worked with the character. Like it made more sense that his character wouldn't jump in. Like that totally held up. But they did it not because of his character, but because they think it would have taken it. People would have been like, wait, he wouldn't look like that.
Oh, I love that.
So after the wolf scene, because they're doing Truth or Dare.
Yes.
Yeah. They go to the cellar.
And that's when I think does it pop open?
Yeah, it just pops in like a burst of air. And they said, oh, maybe the wind did it. Mm-hmm. Even though that doesn't make any sense, but
no, but it's okay.
So it's Dana's turn. And so they dare her to go into the cellar.
And they all make a big deal of like, she's not going to do it. She never does her dares. She's a chicken. Like, so they're kind of egging her on, and she does. She goes down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
there's so much
wild down there. Like it's so many things all at once.
Yeah.
That it's hard to like pay attention to all of it. Cause there's
it's everything. So it's like, it's all the classic horror things. Mm-hmm. There's creepy dolls, there's weapons, there's pictures, there's
clowns,
there's just everything you can imagine.
Bones and there's really everything. Like
it's just a cellar of horror.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I feel like maybe is a good time to then talk about what we're sipping on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's like just a mixture of everything.
Yes.
So I feel like maybe we should talk about what we're sipping on now.
Yeah. Yes. Well, I think it was your idea to do this. So do you want to introduce what we're sipping on, Laura?
Yeah. So I was thinking that this movie, and we'll get more into this later, ends up being not just one kind of horror movie topic, which we tend to try to match our cocktails with. It was a little bit of everything.
Yes.
And like a lot of just classic horror themes.
Yes.
So I thought, rather than just picking one cocktail to coincide with all of them, let's each just pick our own cocktail.
Yeah.
And we'll provide a mixture.
Mix it all.
Like the movie provided a mixture. And we'll just share with each other live on air what we're sipping on.
All right.
We don't know what we've all chosen, but I'm mostly bringing this up now because I want to sip on mine.
Yes. Oh yeah. Actually, I haven't seen you drink.
Yeah. So
all right, bring it in.
So I thought I appreciated the classic movie and horror references in this movie a lot. So I'm doing a very classic cocktail, a very old school cocktail of an old fashioned.
Oh, yeah. That's
nice.
That's a good one.
So that is what I am sipping on today with a Luxardo cherry. So old fashioned is typically like it's whiskey, it's orange, bitters, a little bit of either sugar, simple syrup, and a Luxardo cherry.
Nice.
That's all you
If you haven't tried Luxardo cherries, go get some. They're so worth it.
Once you go Luxardo, you will never go back.
Yeah.
Maraschinos can suck it.
So good. It's absolutely worth it. They taste so much better.
Yeah. Yes, agreed.
So that is my classic cocktail.
Nice.
You all bringing to the table.
Okay. Don't get mad at me because guys, before we picked the cocktails, I reached out to Laura and Brianna and I was like, guys, we've done too much wine. We need to do a cocktail for this next movie. But I went with a wine. But I have a good reason.
Okay. All right. It better be good.
Never.
So I went and got the DVD, like I try to do for every movie that we watched. And I watched the director's commentary. And right at the beginning of the director's commentary, they start by saying, well, we're sipping on some Flowers Chardonnay. And I was like, okay.
Oh, that's too perfect.
That's too perfect. They started that by being like, we are currently sipping on this. Let's talk about this movie.
That's amazing.
So it was like, I have to. So apparently these writers have very nice taste because that's a $55 bottle of wine.
Oh, damn.
I do not have big movie money. So they said it was the Flowers Chardonnay. So I went and found a Chardonnay that has flowers on it.
Nice.
How is it?
Honestly, okay, it's not like oaky and buttery. It's like shockingly light. So this one's actually pretty good.
I struggle with Chardonnays.
Me too.
I've only had like one or two good ones.
Yeah, they're not a favorite, but it was like I think I have to do it.
Yes,
that's fair.
It ran me a cool $5.99.
Nice.
According to the back, it has generous flavors of Chardonnay.
Oh, wow.
It's a Chardonnay flavored Chardonnay. Yes.
That's amazing.
I love that.
So go ahead and go find yourself any bottle with a flower on it.
Okay. Tastes like Chardonnay.
Yeah. It has to be close to what they were sipping on, is what I can only assume.
Love it.
Well, I thought, and this will be the next thing we get into, I would honor our first death of the movie. So I went with a dirty martini.
Yeah.
I did that because they were about to do the dirty as it went down. So I thought, what better to sip on with than a dirty martini?
Oh, I love it. Yes.
You know, that was my second choice, was a dirty martini.
Nice,
so I'm glad I went with the old fashioned. So we really have a mixture.
We really do.
It's a variety.
A cacophony of cocktails.
You might be in for a bad night if you have all three of these in one night, though.
I probably wouldn't recommend that.
Don't have this in one sitting.
I mean, there's the saying, you know, liquor before beer, you're in the clear. Beer before liquor, you've never been sicker. But where does wine fit into that?
It doesn't. That's where. It doesn't.
So you're telling me that once a month when I go out with my psych friends and we do red wine with tequila shots, that's a bad thing?
Yes, I do. That's
no,
exactly
that means that no, like the wine doesn't count. Like as in like you're good either way.
Oh no, I said it as in you shouldn't, not to be mixed with.
I've always had a great
not
time.
applicable.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right, so let's jump in with it.
Let's do it.
It goes down pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So
they pick their thing. Yes. Yeah.
They're in the cellar and they like each are holding a different symbolic item, like a shell, this map ball, a diary,
the ballerina,
a necklace.
Yeah. So they've all got a different one, but Dana is holding the diary and she opens it and begins to read from it. And so like everyone else sets down their things and they're just focused on the diary. And it's like
1903.
Yes, 1903. It's like a pioneer daughter's diary. And she's writing about all this weird shit. Like
it's the diary from Patience Buckner.
Yes.
And she's talking about like all of this like abuse that's happened by her dad and by like, you know, causing people pain and people dying and her arm gets cut off and
and of course the husband's bulge.
Oh, and the husband's bulge. She talks about the husband's, I don't even know the rest of the contact, but
that's all you need to remember.
Yeah, it's basically talking about how like she is witnessing that as one guy is carrying out these violent actions on someone, she notices that it gave him a husband's bulge.
Yeah.
Gross.
Like it's so gross, but it really is like that's so perfect. Like that is what some old-timey person writing about this would say.
Yeah, it really is.
Love it.
I will say I loved the scene of them all with their items because it does feel like there's tension, right? Because they're all about to like we see Jules, who I think is like about to put the necklace on, and then we see like they're all about to do something when she starts reading.
Yeah, Holden's about to touch the ballerina and like you you can tell whatever one they engage with in first, like something's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
No, the tension in that scene is so great.
Yes. Yep. Which is where we realize is the bets that they were all making.
Yes.
Downstairs.
Yep. So then they go back upstairs and it's like a little tense, I feel like, because, there's just a lot that they don't know what's going to happen. So the guy and her girl, the blonde and the athlete, are like making out, right? But they decide to leave and go outside. Like,
yeah.
It's like, come with me.
They've been pumping all of these, like the people in the control room are putting in pheromones. They're putting in like all these things to make Kurt is the guy in the couple that's Thor, to make him like be more macho and testosterone and horny. Yeah. And then Jules to make her like cognition go down, but also her horniness go up. So like they're making,
I think it's horniness up for everyone.
Like horniness. Well, yeah, except they would not want to have it up for Dana because they need her to stay a virgin.
Oh, that's true.
So I feel like somehow they're just controlling it for everyone.
Yeah, there were limits.
Yeah.
I will say one other thing that I liked is when they're reading the diary, right at the end, there's Latin. And I love that Marty's like, don't read the Latin. Like, this is where I draw the line. Please don't read the Latin. But Dana reads it anyway. So I think we get the idea of like, to them, they
like something just got unleashed. Something just happened.
Yeah. And Marty's like the stoner guy that's been smoking the whole time, but also he kind of seems to be the only one that's like, he's already starting to know something is wrong. Yeah. I feel like they think we're puppets. Like, I think he even alluded to this even before anything started to happen.
Yep. Like, he's like puppeteers.
Yeah, they're puppeteers.
Yeah. But then he's like Pop-Tarts.
He's just too high to function.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, they do. Jules and Kurt go out into the woods, and the woods get pumped up with some more pheromones. Because really the betting people in the lab really want to make sure that Jules and Kurt have sex. Yeah. Like they kind of need like the money shot, so to speak, of like Jules with her top off.
And they get it.
And they get it.
But like right after, we see something come up from the forest floor, like something pops up, and we see that it's like a zombie.
The Buckners.
He's got like a bear trap.
A bear trap.
The freaking bear trap.
I know. And he like throws it because Jules is straddling
Thor.
Thor.
Yeah.
And as she's like got her top off, he throws the bear trap at her and then like pulls her back. So she just starts screaming, and it's like brutal. Chaotic, like what's happening?
Yeah.
So they're both getting kind of attacked by the zombies that have come up. And so what happened is the Latin brought the zombies up. The Buckner zombies up, and now their whole mission is to attack these 5 people.
Yes.
And so the Jules gets the bear trap, but then she's also just being kind of like beaten, as is Kurt. And then she gets like taken, like she's being held, and like Kurt is forced to watch. And then one of the zombie guys, just with this big rusty serrated saw, just cuts her in half.
Like we just hear the scream and then just blood. And
he decapitates her.
We learned soon that it was a full decapitation.
Yes.
So that's death number 1.
Death number 1.
Yes. And Kurt gets away, and he's able to run back into the cabin.
Yes.
And he's like screaming, and covered in blood. Like, and I don't remember exactly. Oh, I remember like before they go off and do everything, they make a plan that they need to stay together. They're like, whatever we do, we have to stay together.
Right. Yes.
And the guys in the suits back in the control room are like, well, shit, we got to. Nope. Like, make it happen that they all get separated. And I don't even know how they would have done this, but all of a sudden
it's like the alpha male spray, you know?
They pumped like an alpha male spray.
What is it? Axe body spray. It's Axe body spray.
They pumped the Axe body spray. Yes. Yeah. And then Thor is like, no, now we got to separate. Oh, well, because so while that's happening, like either like right around that time, when Kurt / Thor gets back to the cabin, the zombies follow him, and then they like throw the head of Jules into the cabin.
Oh yeah, because Dana kind of like wasn't buying that Jules was dead. She was like, there's no way she's dead. You're wrong. And then all of a sudden a head gets thrown into her hands and it's Jules. Like,
And meanwhile, Marty Stoner has realized several things. One, he had gone outside to see the stars and he's like, wait, there's no stars. And then he goes back to his room and he realizes that there's cameras all over. So Stoner Marty, I was going to call him Starty.
Starty, if you will.
Starty has realized that something's up.
Something's off. Something's not right.
So then I have to say that I wrote down my second death, which then I had to cross off. Because Marty's outside and he gets attacked and eaten by the zombies, blood going everywhere, really appears as though he's dead.
Yeah. Well, and another reason that we all think he's dead is because the ceremonial blood pours into these stone plate things, which we saw happen after Jules died. So it's like, oh, he's dead too.
And so like we don't quite know what that is. We just know. So Jules dies, and then all of a sudden we see this close up of the ceremonial plate that gets filled with blood, and then Marty dies, and we see it get filled up with blood. So we're now realizing, okay, every time someone dies, like a picture gets filled with blood, that's got to mean something.
Yep.
So yeah, we assume that means that he's dead. So that was who I originally thought was the second death.
Yeah. But instead we got this death was so much.
Kurt.
Yes. Yeah. So we'll move on to Kurt. So
Kurt Thor.
Kurt / Thor. So the remaining, who we think it's three of them, get to the RV and they're like, we need to GTFO.
Yep.
They get to the tunnel, which is when downstairs they realize, oh my God, the tunnel isn't blocked. So they might actually be able to leave. And I like this scene because somehow you're rooting for both of them, or at least I was.
Yes,
like
totally.
It's like, oh God, I hope they get out. It's like, oh God, but please destroy the tunnel. You can't let them leave.
No, I totally was. Yes.
So we get this scene. The tunnel gets blocked. So it's like, oh, like what's going to happen now? But they have a dirt bike that they brought in the RV.
Yeah. And they think that they can make it because there's the distance from where they came from and where they are. There's this, big, what do you call it?
I called it a canyon.
Oh, I was going to say valley isn't right. What the? What? Yeah.
Well, that'd be right too.
Yeah.
But Kurt thinks he can cross it on his dirt bike. Like he can get out and then I'll go get help.
And they seem really confident. Like I feel like they were like, okay, you have about this distance. Like we got smarty pants them for a little bit.
Yes.
Like, this is the distance. You have that much on the other side. Like if you go full speed. And I feel like they kind of made it seem like he had done this before. It's like, okay, I've done bigger jumps. Like,
right.
Okay, here we go. Now, had either of you forgotten about the barrier at this point?
I had. Because again, it's been over a decade since I've seen it. So like, I was like, wait, does he get out? Like, and I couldn't remember.
So I it's not that I forgot about the barrier, but I wasn't sure how far the barrier went.
I wasn't even thinking about the barrier, honestly.
But I absolutely would have bet $1 million that he would have died somehow. I was like, there's no way. There's no way he's getting across this.
No. Thing. Yeah.
But yeah, he just does his little dirt bike and he totally would have made the jump, but he just crashes into the barrier.
Yeah.
And just falls to his death.
You get like his body
just hitting it over and over.
Hitting the barrier again. The entire way down.
Yeah.
Do you know this? I know we talk about horror movies and deaths, but maybe I shouldn't talk about this. It's too sad.
What?
but I have to say it now. You can cut this out, Brianna, if it's too much. You know what it made me think of? Have you ever watched like Planet Earth or Life or like the ones?
Oh yeah,
like those. The saddest thing I've ever seen was when the walruses.
Oh no! It's this. It honestly, I almost cried watching
the walruses. Brianna, they go up onto this. They go up onto this little like piece of land, and it's normally bigger, and they're like trying to like get to their like other piece of land, but like it's like
there's not enough
room. There's not enough room because all of their land is like all of their icebergs have melted, so they don't have enough room. Yeah. So then they're all just like trying to like congregate on this cliff, and then the walruses.
They just show these walruses
like telling this story.
Why are you? Like the way
why are you telling this story?
It's so sad.
All right, so immediately cut and go back to the movie. We're gonna disassociate that didn't happen. Drunk Aunt Julie over here.
Aunt Julie.
No, Yvette, did you ever like? I doubt you watched it, but Seventh Heaven. Do you know about Seventh Heaven?
I don't.
Oh my God. Just one day, again, we'll cut this out. Like, I want you to deep dive on Google about Seventh Heaven. It was the show we grew up with. It's about a priest.
I always hated
all
it.
Of his kids. I loved it.
I always hated it.
Loved it. And
you and Mom loved the shit out of it.
It is the grossest show you ever, especially because the guy that played the priest came out as a pedophile. So like,
well, he didn't come out. He got found out.
He got found.
He came out. He was like, guys,
like make an announcement.
I have nothing to say.
Anyway, right, wow, what a tangent.
I've devolved.
How did we go to from walruses to Seventh Heaven pedophile?
Okay, but yeah, because on the show, their aunt is an alcoholic and they call her Drunk Aunt Julie, and that's like become my pet name for Lara.
Drunk Aunt Julie right now. Didn't Yvette, you've seen them both.
No, I've seen it.
You the way the walruses fall down?
No, it does. It does.
Anyway.
All right, so anyways, Kurt died.
Kurt is dead.
To paraphrase, to catch us up.
Yeah.
Kurt is dead.
Because we cut all that out, so it's fine.
I don't know. We might have to
keep
good.
That. I think we should keep that in. So Kurt is dead. And for what we know, it's Dana and Holden that's left, right?
Yes.
So they get in the RV and Holden's driving and he's like, I'll just go to the other way. I don't know. We'll just keep driving until we find a way out. And then we just get, he's like stabbed through the head.
It reminded me so much of the Thanksgiving movie.
Yeah.
The guy,
Destination.
Yeah.
Yeah. The guy that was driving the float in Thanksgiving. I was like, wait, holy shit. Like,
yeah.
Also, can I just say, and I was completely sober watching this movie and taking these notes, but you know, something about the way I take notes and write, like when I watch movies, I was convinced, apparently, while watching this movie that his name was Truman.
And then Truman.
Truman stabbed in neck.
Why would his name be Truman?
Maybe because I couldn't really hear what they were saying.
Like the Truman Show?
I'd already had Truman Show on the brain. I wrote his name as Truman like 3 times, you guys. I was convinced this guy's name was Truman.
And then Truman. Like he always does.
I now know it's Holden.
Oh, shit. Oh, that's amazing.
Anyway, so Truman was stabbed in the neck.
Okay.
And then the car goes in the water.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And at this point, all of the scientist people, the people downstairs, they start celebrating.
Yep.
Yeah. Like we've won the ritual. Mm-hmm. And then somebody questions it and they say, well, wait, they're not all dead. How can you say, you've won? Mm-hmm. And then they mention, well, the virgin's death is optional. Yes. Like as long as she's the last to die, or as long as she's the last surviving, she can live or die. It doesn't really matter. Her death is optional. So therefore we've won. We have, and then I think this is when they start to say like, as long as she suffers, it doesn't matter if she dies.
Yeah.
And I think this is where they kind of reveal like, we've just saved humanity.
Yeah. Yes. And everyone else failed.
Everyone else fails.
Yes.
Because they mentioned earlier on, they were like, they were really like racist about it.
They were absolutely racist.
Talking about like the poles and the Japanese and the
yeah, it was definitely racist.
They're like talking about other countries, how they all failed.
Yeah. And the one that we see the most of, and I'm curious your guys' thoughts, because I think the studio didn't like it. They didn't like the Kyoto scenes.
Yeah.
So this was the stuff we kept getting the reference to. Like, we know other countries are doing it, but it's like, it seems like Japan and the US are the most successful at doing this. Fulfilling the prophecy, finishing the ritual. And so throughout the movie, we've been getting kind of flashes, because like on their TV, I think they have one in the scenario that's going on in Japan, which is very much so giving like the Ring energy. Like that's definitely what they were
like, even the lighting
for sure. Yes. But then we find out that they failed because the little girls all came together and were doing a chant, and the spirit
healed her,
trapped in a frog.
Yeah, so we should say, like, instead of in the Japan scenario, instead of it being these 5 very different types of like classic characters,
which I'm very uncomfortable that one of those was the whore and these are 9-year-olds.
Well, but I think it was different. So I think Japan, it didn't have to be the athlete, the whore, the joker.
Okay,
I think in Japan, like their ritual was different.
Okay,
as long as it was, every culture had their own individual ritual, but as long as one of them worked, humanity could be saved.
Okay.
Yes. And it was like, I think when Sigourney Weaver is explaining it to us, she says it always involves youth.
Yeah.
It varies like culturally, but it's always something about youth. So I think the idea is Japan is something else. So go back to my question. What did you guys think about all of the Japan scenes? Do you think it was worth keeping? Did it progress the story?
No, honestly, I mean, I think the idea of it to show that different cultures around the world needed to try the ritual was worth it, but I think it was not done well enough for it to have been worth it. They should have done it. They should have made it a little bit more involved. We should have known a little bit more about it, because how little they showed it, it just made it seem kind of like an afterthought. So I think it would have been worth it if they had done it better, but because they did it so poorly, they just shouldn't have done it at all.
Yeah, I agree. It was like a all or nothing kind of thing, and it didn't work the way they did it. And so you were left being like, what the fuck was that? Like, why did I just watch that? Like, that's how I was left. Like, I agree.
This movie is pretty short. I think it's an hour 35.
Yeah, I think it's like 133, 135.
Just over 90 minutes. And I feel like in general, they actually have pretty good use of time. Like the movie is going. Like once it starts and then it just doesn't stop. And I feel like that was one place where it didn't feel necessary. I think they could have kept the stuff mentioning that they do it in a lot of countries. Like the US isn't the only one.
Exactly.
And then they could have included Japan in the scene where we see everyone fail. Right? Like, I think we get like a bunch of cuts to all the countries failing. You know, it's like, oh, the castle's on fire.
Right.
And like, well, I think they could have had just the Ring reference there.
Just that. Exactly.
I think it would have been just, I feel like it was almost too weird. I haven't seen the original Japanese Ring.
Oh, but good.
I'm assuming they didn't turn into a frog at the end.
No,
not that I remember.
No, they did not.
It's been a while, but
it's like, it's not even like, oh, but it's a reference to the movie.
Right.
Like,
no,
I don't know.
Well, it's not like it's paying homage, right?
You know what? We might get into that a little bit in the psych segment as to why I think they went that route.
Okay, actually. Interesting.
So
I agree.
So the end of the movie all happens relatively quickly, but they get a phone call during their party and realize that the ritual has not been completed. So they're like, what? And then we go back to the woods scene and Dana is being like brutalized by a zombie. And we see Marty arise from the back and like knock out one of the zombies.
So we realize he's not dead.
Marty's not dead. So then there's some more fighting and more like battle between them, and then they eventually somehow get to the place where the control center is. They like get to that building.
Yeah, because he goes in through the grave.
Okay, yes, through the grave. Okay,
yeah.
And I have to say, some of my favorite parts of the movie are right in this time. I love the scenes where the business guys are just like celebrating and getting drunk and being trashy and sleazy. While meanwhile, there's these big screen, like these like projections of like what's happening in their like, their world where they've orchestrated all the torture. And you just see Dana just being brutalized by this
like
zombie.
A long time.
A long time.
Like the whole party.
These guys are just like, it's just this like cheesy music, just partying and just like, I love that scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I also love the line where, like Dana goes down with Marty into like the underground, like, cause he's, as you were saying, he's found that like space. And when she gets down there, she sees like these like body parts of a zombie that are like still moving. And she's like, what happened there? And I had to write this down because I love this quote so much. And Marty goes, I had to dismember that guy with a trowel. What have you been up to? It was just so good.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Yep.
She's like, what are you doing? Like, what?
I don't know. What were you doing?
Let's dismember him with a trowel. What are you up to? Like, it was so good.
Yep.
Okay.
So I think there's like a hatch or something that gets them into an
goes
elevator.
on for a minute. And like, they're in the center. They're in an elevator now.
Good jump scare.
Oh, yes.
The werewolf.
I love the elevator scene.
Elevator?
I actually think the elevator scene is really cool.
So it's like this elevator that goes like up, down, and sideways.
Yeah.
You kind of can't really tell what direction it's going, but the first stop that the elevator makes, and it doesn't open up doors or anything. They just kind of stop, and there's these like, windows that they can kind of see through. And I knew it was coming. Like you see Dana going up to the glass and like she's getting closer and closer. And I'm like, oh God, something's going to jump out. And it's coming, but it still made me scream and jump because this big werewolf just comes up in her face. Like,
so that was good. And they just, I don't know. I feel like the creatures were so interesting, like the monsters, because there's one of the stops, Marty is looking at the ballerina who is facing away from them as he's just trying to like look into her. But at the same time, Dana is looking at the guy that had that like, I don't even know what it was. The sphere with the puzzle. And like, he's kind of in the dark and starts like approaching. And it's just like, it's kind of like a hard pause.
Yes.
Of just looking at the monsters.
It's like they're being unveiled slowly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just was thinking, because it kind of zooms out and you see like it's just this maze of horror creatures.
Of like hundreds of different boxes with a horror in it,
like kind of this what do they call it, like an army of horrors. But then you see the main characters and they're just in this little like elevator pod and they're going like up, down, sideways and whatever. Just they get to see each one by one. And I thought, wouldn't that be the best amusement park ride?
Oh my gosh.
Yes. I mean, can you not imagine getting into this elevator and you just go place by place and you just see all these like jump horrors? Like, you guys.
Yeah. That's kind of like the Haunted Mansion ride at Disneyland.
Yeah, but this one is better because it's like.
No, I like that. Yeah, like a spookier version. But that's kind of how it works, right? The Haunted Mansion one. Like you do the elevator with the, I love it, but spookier. But make it darker.
So I just feel like this is a untapped market. I'm trademarking it. Can I just say that? Can I just declare it like bankruptcy? I declare it. So we're going to make this amusement park ride. Yeah. I just loved it so much. I want to go on that amusement park ride.
And then, so then it goes on for a minute and I don't know exactly how there's a lot of chaos ensuing because they like somehow get to a place where they're in front of this like button, like this emergency button.
Oh, so you're like jumping ahead slightly. Yeah. With the elevator, they find where they are in the elevator and they send security to go and kill Marty. They're like, at least Marty, is that maybe the other one. Right. And so it's basically a lobby with a bunch of elevators and the security guard is killed by is it like a zombie hand or
well,
yeah.
So I loved this part.
Yeah.
Because they come out of the elevator and the security guard is like pointing the gun. He's going to get him. But then the zombie arm gets the security guard. Like he like grabs his ankle or something. And then the security like guy like loses his gun. And then I just love how like Dana and Marty are kind of like escaping from the security guard as he's like laying kind of knocked out on the ground. I don't know if he's dead yet, but then you just see the zombie arm just go up and like caress his face. Like it's so cute.
So yeah, then they go into in this lobby area for some reason. There's a little room. Like and it has a control room.
It is, but it's abandoned.
Yeah.
There's a button, and so they push it. Like
it's a big red button.
Does is it opens the doors to all of the horror boxes.
Here's what I wrote the button does.
It goes down.
Yeah.
It unleashed an army of nightmares.
Yeah.
I might have said that. That probably wasn't from me, but anyway, that's what I said.
No, it was.
But that is. And so that, we just see that all being played out. Like,
it's like chaotic. You just get like elevator, like ding, and then it's just blood. Like it's just like sea of blood, and then you just get like ding, and then get like the next round.
Yep.
Yeah. So here's what I had accounted for. Jules is death number 1.
Mm-hmm.
We then didn't have the death that I thought happened for number 2. So then the second death would have been Kurt, and then the third death would have been Truman. What's his name?
Holden.
And then the fourth death is the security guard. Yeah. And then, so I wrote 1, give or take 2, and then 2, 3, 4. And then I wrote 24, 50, 100. Like,
it's just,
it's just then happens.
It's everyone.
So fast. Just everyone dies. Everyone dies.
Because they're sending in their security, military, whatever. So it is just like tens, dozens, maybe hundreds of people.
Yeah, it's so many people. And there's just blood. And I just, at this point is when I think I really got the idea for just like a cocktail of everything, because I don't even know. I think maybe according to IMDb, there is, hold on one second. There is 55 horror movie references in this movie. Because like I noticed The Shining, I noticed Alien, I noticed Dracula, like all of these villains and horrors, all the ones that we've already covered have been here. It's classic. They just all pop out of the little elevator things. So good. So good.
Yeah. So I just wrote so many people at the lab. It's just everyone at the lab.
I wrote so many movie references. OMG blood. And I love that the swamp guy eventually gets Hadley as like the main scientist guy that we see a lot, who's orchestrating things. And it's like the swamp guy like eats his face. And it's great.
The merman.
Yeah, because he had been wanting the merman to be.
Yeah, he's like, I just want to. I just want the merman, which I think we're supposed to assume is like the conch shell.
Yeah,
that Chris Hemsworth's character finds at one point. So he's like, he had it in his hand.
Yeah,
he was gonna do the merman. So because he also talks about like they want to please the people upstairs. Who are the people upstairs? Is that like God?
I mean, we know that there's gods. Like they're doing it for.
So that's my question, and we haven't like finished.
No, we haven't finished it, but I'm just.
But my question is like, who was this broadcast for?
That's what I'm wondering. Who are the people? Like they're like.
So are there like executive people that are the ones that like call the shots and. Like the VPs, the CEOs of this thing. And then there's the people in the control room, and then the ancient ones are down below. Like,
so I think like Sigourney Weaver's character
is one of the upstairs people.
Would be like the heads,
and that's who this is
ancient ones.
Broadcast for.
Right.
I think it's supposed to be both. Like I think it's supposed to be both
when
Sigourney
I saw that they were being filmed and like, especially when they like wanted them to have sex as part of the like movie almost, I was like, who's the one watching this though?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you both recognize? So as I'm watching, this is the first time. It was after the swamp guy gets Hadley, or the mer guy or whatever. Mm-hmm. Did you recognize Sigourney Weaver's voice?
Yes.
Yeah, I did. I feel like she's pretty.
Well, yeah. It's funny because I said it and Jade was like, "You knew that?" And I was like, "Yes, that's like she had said 2 words, and I was like, that's Sigourney."
Got it. Like,
yeah, no, I totally knew it was her, and then I was like, I hope it's actually Sigourney Weaver, and I'm not just hallucinating it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
we kind of jump to this final scene, right? Yeah. So we get all the chaos, all the deaths. We finally see the merman. Oh, which randomly, I guess that is the scene that tested like the best. Like when they did testing for this movie, everyone loved that we got to see, like we got the payoff.
Yeah.
He wanted the merman and he got to see him at the end.
Nice.
So we get all of that. And then we finally get Dana and Marty in the ceremony.
Yeah, like the ceremony room.
The one with all the stone cutouts that the blood has been dripping into. And that's when we get Sigourney Weaver, aka the director, I think is her title.
AKA goddess.
Yes.
And she just comes out and kind of explains that this is what this is. This is the ritual. And we've been doing it for these, since we've been humans. And if we don't, the ancient ones will take over the earth and the world will end as we humans know it.
Yeah. And she explains in their ritual, this is how it has to go.
Yeah.
That there's 5 different characters. One is the whore who must die first, which I just feel like this is fucking bullshit.
It is bullshit.
Like what patriarchal system do we have where like the whore has to die first? It's just bullshit. Then there must be the athlete, which is Thor, the scholar, which is Avery. I don't know his name.
And he's this was my favorite part. He's the scholar for no other reason than he has glasses. Because he never was like super smart.
I thought they talk about how he's like studying, like very well read, like
but like just because you can read a book and wear glasses.
Everyone else in the cabin was partying and he was reading.
They had to work with what they have.
All right, okay, all right.
And then there was the fool, and then there's the virgin who it doesn't matter if they actually die as long as they suffer. And at this point, I was thinking, oh my God, I've realized it. It's that the Dana is not actually the virgin. She's actually the fool, because they had talked about earlier on in the movie where like she fell in love with her professor. And I was like, I forgot about remember that? Like it seemed like it was going to be more of a big thing in the movie, and then it wasn't. And I was like, oh, she's the fool. And actually the stoner guy is the virgin. He's never. So I was thinking they were like messing with us.
Oh, they were like, actually.
And I was like, that's why it didn't work, or actually she's the one that needs to die first, because she's actually not the virgin. He's the virgin. She's the fool, but that's not what happened. But.
Okay, honestly, that would have been such a good twist.
Yeah.
Right?
That would have been so good. I would have liked that more.
I know. I should have made horror movies. I'm telling you.
But it wasn't. Time. And so like
yeah, that's not it, guys. Sorry.
We see it playing out like Sigourney Weaver is basically saying like, Marty, you have to die. And if you don't, it's either you or the end of the world. Like
plus you.
and Dana.
And you only have 8 minutes to decide. She tells them.
So then we see Dana kind of lift her arm with the gun that they had gotten.
Yeah,
shooting Marty, like because fair. Like she doesn't want the world to end.
Yeah,
but she doesn't.
And I have to say, I liked the end scene. It was very kind of sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like she, like we said, she goes to kill him, but then she decides she can't. And then you start to hear the rumbles.
She does not decide that she can't. She gets attacked by a werewolf.
but then I think she stops trying. Like,
yeah.
like, okay, so I guess it's not that she decides that she can't, but once she couldn't, she realizes
I don't want to do this.
she's apologetic. She tells him, she's like, I'm sorry I almost shot you. And he's like, no, I get it. It's fine.
I probably wouldn't have shot you.
Yeah. She's like, I probably wouldn't have done it.
Yes.
But they're just very like sweet and like just kind of comforting each other, smoking a joint.
Yeah, they just sit there and smoke a joint together. Yeah. And like I have to say, I love that it actually ended the world. Like I loved that was the ending.
They didn't save the world.
It wasn't like
you see this big hand coming up out of the earth and just
the gods are coming out.
Crushing it.
Yep. Totally reminded me of Fight Club, the ending of Fight Club, like where the two are just sitting there watching everything explode.
Yeah.
So and then that last scene is seeing like a giant hand burst out of the earth and end the world.
Yeah. That's all she wrote, folks.
That's all she wrote.
Oh, so much happened in this movie.
So much.
So I have to say, one of my favorite things about this movie is I went and saw it with someone that like is not a huge movie person. Right? Like they don't hate movies, but I kind of had to like goad them into seeing it with me. But they are, and especially were at the time, one of the biggest stoners I ever knew. And I remember when the movie ended, the first thing she said when it was over, she was like, yeah, the movie was okay. She was like, it felt a little heavy-handed. And she was like, but I gave it more respect when Marty knew how to roll a joint. She was like, usually in movies, they never do.
Yeah.
But like he got trained like nobody's business to know how to be a stoner and like pulled it off very well.
I love it so much that they did that.
Yeah.
So like, if you're going to be a stoner,
got trained in how to be a stoner.
Yeah. So was he actually a stoner or he just got trained to look?
No, he just
got trained.
He got this like intensive training.
I believed it.
Roll a joint and act like it. Like I was like, that's my favorite thing about this movie. I think
I love it. They were dedicated.
They were dedicated.
That's
stoner
amazing.
Approved. Yeah, that's amazing. I love that they caught that too. Where it was like, okay, fine, they did that correctly.
Yes, exactly. I know, it was so funny. Oh shit,
so good.
Well, is this a good time to get into some psych? Because I'm so curious.
There has got to be some good shit here.
So curious where you're going to go with this.
I have an interesting path with this one.
Okay.
Nice. And just remember, folks, she is not a real doctor, but that's okay because they are not real people.
Yep.
Or zombies.
And just as I am not a real doctor, I am also not a real philosopher. But that's where we're going with this one.
Oh shit, here we go.
We're going a little bit psychology, a little bit philosophy. Combine those together and we get into some moral psychology.
Ooh, okay.
So moral psychology, like what is that, right? Really, we're mostly only talking about one thing, one concept, which is the trolley problem, which I know everyone knows about. But do you not feel like this whole movie is about the trolley problem?
I can totally
when you get down to it.
I mean, yeah.
So it's so funny because I was telling my husband about this and he was like, wait, I didn't see that. And after I explained it, he was like, oh, wait, you're right. This whole movie is the trolley problem.
Oh, yeah.
The whole movie is the trolley problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when it gets down to it, we have to decide. So I'll explain the trolley problem.
Yes.
So this is a question from Virtue Ethics, which I know is a bit philosophy, but really it could also be called moral psychology. And I feel like what's the difference? It's all the same. It's all the same. It's all about how humans think, right? So Virtue Ethics, and it was first posed by a woman named Philippa Foot.
What a name.
In 1967. And so the main premise of this moral quandary is a trolley is on course. And it's going to kill 5 people if it just stays on course. If you do nothing, 5 people are going to die. But if you intervene and you go and you pull a lever, it's going to divert the trolley and it's going to kill one person.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So which of the two is more ethical? That's the question posed by the trolley problem. So this really gets into the psychological aspect of how do we make judgments and morals. There's also an example of this problem where it gets a little darker. So naturally, this being a horror movie podcast, I'm going to bring this up.
We're going to go there.
So instead of it just being, there's 5 people on the tracks, and if you divert, you kill one person. Instead, there's the 5 people on the tracks, and you can divert it, but instead of you diverting it to where there's one person on the track in front, you push a large person, so you push a large man onto the track. And by pushing the large man onto the track, you divert the train enough so it doesn't kill the 5 people. It just kills the one large man.
So either way, one person dies.
Yeah.
Either way,
there's so many variations, because then it'll be like, 5 people versus 1. But what if that one is your sister?
Or you.
Yes.
I've heard that.
You. Yeah. Or you. Yes. Or like adding other like things where it's like, but the 5 people are really old and about to die, and the one is a doctor,
or one is Martin Luther King. Like,
there's so many variations.
You guys, I'm so glad you brought this up, because there's this amazing website. It's neal.fun trolley problems. And you can take this trolley problems. I think it takes you through like 25 exercises. And you go through, and it starts out with just the classic trolley. And then it's like, oh no, now the person on the track would have been a baby. Or, oh no, now there's $500 million versus the people. And it's like, you go and you make decisions, and everyone who has gone to this website and answered, it compares you to them. And it says like, where are you at compared to how many other people said this?
Interesting.
I went through the entire website. It's actually really fun. Like, you should go through it.
We'll share the link.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll share the link. And so when I went through it, at the very end, it says, congratulations, you have solved philosophy. And my kill count was only 66 people.
Nice. Well done.
You've solved all of philosophy.
I solved it. I solved philosophy.
Well done.
You should take a screenshot of that.
Yeah. No, I did. I did take a screenshot of it.
We're going to need to share that.
So I'd be curious to know both of your philosophies. I will say many times I actually had an answer that was not in the majority.
Oh.
But we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
We're getting into why. So I must say that I do love that every example I have found of the trolley problem, everyone who dies in this is all men.
Interesting.
It's all 5 men on a track. You divert, you kill one man, you push a large man. I will just say I found that interesting.
Yeah.
We were talking about
Anyway. Coincidence? I think not.
So there's 2 kind of views for how you solve this trolley problem. We'll get into all of our answers in a minute. But the first is the utilitarian view. So I'm a little bit channeling my Chidi Anagonye from
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Because nobody likes a moral philosophy professor. That's what I'm pretending to be right now. So in the utilitarian view, you must steer to one person. So that would say you have to intervene to steer to kill one person instead of the 5. So this gets into the doctrine of double effect, which is really freaking confusing. Just try to Google it and see what you can find. It's really confusing. But essentially it means you're allowed to do something that you normally wouldn't, aka steer a train to kill a person. You're allowed to do that if it means that if the thing you would normally do is not steer a train to kill a person, would cause a worse negative effect. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It gets really confusing, but so if the thing that would normally be against your morals would happen if you didn't do something bad, you're allowed to do something bad if it stops the thing against your morals.
Yeah.
So 5 people dying. So really this means if the good outweighs the bad, you must do the thing that causes the good to outweigh the bad.
Greater good. Mm-hmm.
It also is involving minimizing harm. So that's the utilitarian view. So hold that in your brains for a minute, because now we're going to go the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
So the other psychological way of processing this is deontology.
Mm-hmm.
And this is saying that there's an ethics of duty where the morality of an action depends on the nature of the action. It doesn't matter what the consequence is, it's the nature of the action itself. So if your action of pulling the lever, pull the
liver out.
Rip out that lever. No, if your action of pulling the lever will result in one death, you cannot pull that lever.
Yeah. Sorry, I just got the Emperor's New Groove, like pull the lever across. Wrong lever.
Oh, I need to watch that.
So I started laughing.
It's been a long time.
Wrong lever.
Oh my God.
I'm trying to be philosophical here.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're good.
Amazing.
You're good. So it doesn't matter your consequences, and kind of how I frame the deontology perspective is the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Right.
Yeah. It doesn't matter your intentions. It matters what will happen from it. So changing the train to steer toward one person is always wrong. Because that's you taking an action to kill the person. So before I get into kind of the reasons why people make these choices and what most people do, let's hear from all of our spooky sippers. There's a train going down a track. You do nothing, it kills 5 people. We're just saying 5 people. We're not going to specify who they are. You pull a lever, it kills 1. What are you going to do?
You pull a lever to kill 1.
So you're a utilitarian.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's interesting because, like not pulling the lever, it's a passive action. I didn't kill those people, the trolley did. But if I pull it, suddenly I killed someone.
Oh my gosh, that's so what I'm going to get into next. So great point.
So I don't know. I think maybe I wouldn't pull the lever.
You wouldn't? Okay. So you're more deontology.
You're choosing to not pull the lever.
But if I didn't exist, this trolley would still be doing this.
Okay.
So I am irrelevant to whether the trolley was going to kill 5 people or not.
But are you irrelevant if you can intervene, though?
Yeah.
But if I didn't exist as a human being, would this trolley still be here at this moment of time about to kill 5 people?
Now we're getting into a whole new branch.
I mean, that's a whole separate. It's a whole separate thing.
Right. I love philosophy,
but you are in the trolley, and you can't.
Philosophy is literally the worst. Actually,
I love it. Everyone loves more philosophy professors.
So, I am her. What's her name? And I am Eleanor. In my opinion about moral philosophers.
A quick book recommendation, because referencing The Good Place. If you like philosophy, if you're like me and Laura, who maybe find this a little more entertaining, go read How to Be Perfect. It's it's by Mike Schur, who did The Good Place.
Okay.
And so it's kind of like all his research that he did to prepare for Chidi's character. So it's like a summary of moral philosophy, and it's like a very intro, because I took some philosophy classes in college, and it's it does such a good job of introducing it in a way that's understandable, but also introducing you to a bunch of concepts. So a quick book recommendation.
Ooh, I should read that one.
It's a good one.
Because I will say, in my undergrad, I took statistics with a man who had zero intelligibility, could not understand this man at all. And I took high level statistics. I took all these psych classes, all these math classes, all the hardest class for me to wrap my brain around was philosophy. I was like, what the hell is going on?
I worked my ass off in a political philosophy class and I got an A-, and that was maximum effort. That was like this is an extracurricular.
Yeah. No, it's like it's hard to get your brain to go that way. Yeah. Yeah. So okay, so now knowing what your answers are, most people do choose to steer the track away from the 5, with the exception of if there is someone they know.
Yeah.
On one of the tracks. So if there is someone they know and are close with, are you going to kill 1 to 5 strangers to save a person you know and love?
Yeah.
And that gets a little trickier. Because how do you go about that? And that's why I love this little website that we'll post a link to, because one of it is what if it's 5 people that are, douchebags, or what if it's 5 people that you really don't like that much, or one person that's maybe like a baby murderers. Starting out, like like it really, it's really interesting. So this all gets down to, there's a lot of psychological and situational factors. So the intent of the person pulling the lever, the physical contact between you and the person. So are you pulling a lever from really far away from you, or are you like right there and you can see the people? Like that all has to do with it. These can all play really important roles. And so there's some really conflicting research as to the psychology behind being more utilitarianism or more deontologism. So a lot of theories are that if you're more deontological, you have a more intuitive process. So you kind of just like go with your gut and you think, no, I can't change it. I can't make that decision. Whereas utilitarian kind of classic research would say, no, deliberate reasoning is saying killing 1, saving 5. That's the more logical approach. But what's really interesting is I found this really cool article and this research study where it talked about how time influences your decisions. Whereas originally I would have thought more time with it might lead to more utilitarian view. It's the opposite.
Interesting.
So the more time you have, deontology of don't change it increases, and utilitarianism decreases, which that shocked me and fascinated me. But it really gets to this hypothesis that people that had more time with it were reluctant to assume kind of like Brianna, you were saying, they were reluctant to assume the responsibility of the deaths of others. So it's like, if I do nothing, if I think about it, I do nothing, that's not my fault. That's not my fault. Those 5 people died. But if I do something, that one person is my fault that they died. So the more time you have with it, the more deontological you'll be.
Yeah.
And another theory about why deontology can kind of increase the more time you have to think about it is that it gives you time to think about how others will judge you. So the people will think about you making that call to kill that one person versus just like, I don't know what to do, I'm going to do nothing. So Dana and Marty are 2 final girls. Should you say?
Yep.
They're like, we'll kill the people on that side, this side, and in the trolley.
Yeah. So they absolutely chose deontologism. And it makes sense. They're American, they're more individualistic. They're not going to sacrifice themselves to give up the rest of the world.
Yeah.
But also, is it more when you just kind of get down to it, like that act of choosing versus not choosing? Was it really a selfish thing, or was it really, I don't know. It's so interesting to think about what their psychology might have been toward making that decision or not. Or did they make the decision because the world freaking sucks? So they're like, let's just do a mercy to everyone. Let's just end it now.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of how it almost ended. It's like it didn't really feel like, oh, I'm not gonna, kill you because I love you and care for you and you're my friend. I feel like they were very much so like, yeah, I don't know, let's give another species a try at this.
It was like a mercy.
Yeah, like I feel like they saw it as, no, this is the right decision.
I agree.
Like humanity, let's just go ahead and end that.
See ya.
Yeah, like knowing you're gonna die or they're gonna die. It's this. What do we want to kind of bring down with us or spawn for the future?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit psychology because it kind of gets into what you're thinking and processing, but it's more just this like philosophical brain fuck. Like,
yeah,
it sure is.
Because I just feel like that's what this movie was. So
I mean, I feel like you could just sit there and think about this for like hours.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
you'd be in the same spot you were when you started.
Yeah.
So we definitely know Dana and Marty were not utilitarians because they did not sacrifice themselves to save the rest.
No.
Which we know all of the gamers, they were not only utilitarian, but they were also, or not the gamers, the controllers.
Yeah.
Whatever they were.
The downstairs people.
Yeah. They were not only utilitarian, but they were also, I would say, kind of like voyeuristic.
Oh, yeah.
Because they not only were doing it to save humanity, but they also liked watching people suffer.
Yeah, like they were very nonchalant.
They got a kick out of
this.
Yeah.
I feel like it was only the very first death with Jules. I think because after she dies, we see them do like a prayer.
Yeah.
Like that was the only death where they kind of did take a second of like, okay, someone died. Let's take a pause. But it was the majority of the time they were very like, all right, gotta keep going. Like
in this specific situation, what would you do?
I definitely would have let the world go down.
You would have let the world go down?
Yes, easy answer.
I would have killed myself to let the world live. I would have given it a try.
Yeah. I got to go down with a buddy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's the thing.
Then I'll live. Like
if you like Laura, like I guess you're assuming you're Marty in that situation, which is you can kill yourself. But if you're Dana, you have to kill someone, your friend.
Here's the thing. In reality, well, okay, yeah.
Yeah, like if
in reality, I'm clearly not the virgin in the situation.
No, but let's say that like I was Marty and you were Dana. You have to kill me to save the world.
I feel like I would have a very good conversation with you, Brianna, and like you and I both know you're going to die when the world ends anyway.
Right.
So let's give it a shot. I'd kill you.
Yeah.
I'd kill you.
Yeah.
And I'd be very sweet about it. I would hold you.
Yeah.
But that's what I would do.
Yeah. I think the decision is easier, I'll say, with this movie because it's either you die and save the world or you die with the world. It's not like, oh, if the two of you live, it'll just be the two of you or something like that. Right. It's your choices are like die or die. So would you like to save the world instead?
Right.
But I guess the more interesting question is not that you die. It's that you kill your kill your friends. Yes. And then you and the world live versus they die. So I think that's the question we should all ask. Yes. Okay. So we've already decided or established I would kill you. And give myself and the rest of the world
specifically you.
No, you know what? Like I just feel like everyone I'm super close with I could have a good conversation with and be like, let's go. I'm going to kill you and I'm going to do it quick and painless and we're going to give the rest of the world a shot. And
I honestly don't know.
You have to answer.
I think I'd let the world end.
Okay.
Interesting.
Because maybe that's better. Honestly,
yeah.
There's been many mass extinctions.
Right, like we're fighting something.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be.
It's like, yeah, interesting.
Because if you let the world live, you're always living in a state of like perpetual needing to sacrifice things, right?
Yeah.
So,
and to
maybe
fight,
that's not a world
reality,
you want to support living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. So, Yvette, you got to be the tiebreaker.
Oh, I feel like I feel like I'd kill the friend to save the world. But I agree. Conversation. Mm-hmm. Hopefully I'll just be the friend, don't have to live through that.
No, what if it's like Matthew?
Oh, I know that's what's hard, right? It's like, I'd be like, if it was actually someone that you knew, I feel like that'd be hard.
But here's the thing. Either way, they're dead.
No, I know.
Yeah, but it's either you killing them or you both getting to like go down together.
Yeah, like, well, let's see the gods come on up.
Yeah, like let's see this.
But it's not just you killing them. It's you killing them and saving the entire rest of humanity.
I don't give a shit about humanity. See ya. Let's do this.
There's the difference.
Let's go. Bye.
I'm sorry. I took us down such a rabbit hole. I'm not even going to bring up the rest of my psych that I had because that's it. That's all we need to talk about tonight.
Yeah.
Philosophy is the worst.
Yeah. I know, it's like this movie is so like it's like it's a fun movie, right? It's but fun, if you actually sit down and think about it, it makes you think. You can think about this movie a lot. Like,
yes, I've been thinking about it for 24 hours.
Yes,
since I watched it. Oh God, so good,
fascinating.
Yeah. So there's my psych.
Okay, well, I still have some fun facts.
Yes,
that we can get into. So for this time in history, this movie was released in 2012, which we already did in our Sinister episode. So if you want a little refresh of 2012, hop on back to Sinister.
Great episode. Do it.
It's such a good movie too. So I got all my fun facts from the DVD commentary. So I'm happy that you guys looked some up on IMDb to get some extra ones. So I think I've talked about the writers and the directors, but I haven't said their name. So it was written by Drew Goddard, who also directed it, and Joss Whedon, who was the producer. Yes. And both of them were writers on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. That's how they started working together.
Nice.
And that's when they started talking about the idea of this movie. It was while they were writing for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But they actually sat down and wrote it in 3 days. They were basically like, quick churn, here we go. I think both of them had longer term projects either like fall through where it was like they were writers and then they didn't end up filming. Like they were both in like a little bit of a slump. And so it was like, what if we just Buffy the Vampire Slayer style where like you have to churn out an episode really quickly because you're going to keep filming, right? So they were like, the idea was lock themselves in a hotel room and not leave until they had a draft of something.
That's so cool. I love that.
Yes, I feel like that. Yeah. So it took them 3 days. In 3 days, obviously it wasn't like the final.
Right,
there were edits and changes and stuff, but 3 days is how long it took them to get this movie together.
Damn, impressive.
Yes. So I talked about how this movie was originally intended to be released earlier, but got delayed. It got delayed because MGM went bankrupt.
Oh, okay.
During that time.
2008,
I didn't. It was 2000, probably 10 or 11 that they would have gone bankrupt.
Like that post like bubble.
Yeah. So a bunch of movies were delayed, not just this one.
Right.
There was a lot of stuff that got postponed. And then another part of it is, and once I saw that, I was like, oh my God, that's right. This was that weird era of movies where every studio was like, make it 3D. If it can be made 3D, make it 3D.
I hated this era.
It was the worst era of TV. It was like they realized there was this thing that existed and they were like, oh my God, yes, everyone wants 3D.
No, I totally remember that because like as someone that is a migraine sufferer, 3D movies used to super trigger the shit out of me getting a migraine. So like I remember this era.
Yeah. Because they weren't all well executed.
No, most weren't. There were only a couple that were
really
like,
bad.
Some that were okay, but
for the majority,
and there were some that were like there are some that were like great movies and they just threw in like 4 3D aspects.
Yeah.
And then it didn't matter if they were there or not. But.
Which is so annoying because as a glasses wearer and contact hater, every time I had to go to a 3D movie, I had to put in contacts because those tiny 3D glasses don't fit over my glasses.
Nope.
So it's a whole thing. I have a hatred of this era.
Yes.
So because studios were pretty much asking any movie to be in 3D, they also asked them to consider making this movie in 3D.
Okay.
Luckily, they did not. Like, maybe it could have worked, but I'm happy they didn't go that direction.
There would have been parts of this movie that would have actually been cute in 3D. Like, I just feel like some of the jump scares that they did, or when the elevator happened, like that would have been nice. But you wouldn't. I think it's fine if you do it as like a supplement.
Right.
Yeah.
But
not
don't make it that your movie is dependent upon that.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah. Honestly, I think it would have made the longevity of this movie worse because anytime I see, whatever 3D, it's like, oh no, that was part of that era of time where like unnecessary 3D. I'm just going to skip that one.
Yeah,
totally.
So I think for their sake, it's probably good that they didn't go that route.
Yeah.
We talked about a lot of the movie references, but they didn't actually do it in a way that was intentional. And I kind of agree where it was like, they obviously made the reference, but you didn't need to know the references to enjoy the movie.
Agreed.
The goal was very much so like that this movie isn't supposed to be, oh, there's all these funny like little references. It wasn't like real horror fans would get. Like it was like they're sprinkled in everywhere. Yes. And it's not like they researched anything. This was just like stuff that they had watched and came up with during that 3-day writing stint of, oh, that could be a fun reference to do.
No, I agree with that because I feel like there was a lot that I picked up on, but there was a lot that I could tell was spooky and creepy there that I didn't know what they were referring to. I knew it was probably from somewhere, but I still appreciated that it was just this creepy monster in this elevator. Like it's fine that I didn't know it.
Yeah. No, you didn't need to, but it's fun if you love horror movies and watch a bunch of them to be like, oh, okay, I totally get what they're going for here.
Yeah. Like I caught The Shining. I caught that Alien. Like I got so many things that I appreciated and it was super fun.
Yeah. So another thing that they paid really close attention to, which honestly, I can just appreciate the attention to detail, is that they made sure that the items in the basement matched the monsters. Nice. They were like, we know that the first watch through, no one's going to catch that. It's fine. But they wanted to make sure that if you like paused the movie and really scanned through the basement, there was something that related to the monsters in the elevator and the monsters in that end scene. And I love that.
I respect that. Like I very much respect that attention to detail.
No, I so appreciate that. That's one of those things where most people are never going to get that, but I feel like even just in this little podcast that we do, those tiny little attention to details, we'll pay attention. No one else will ever freaking know or care, but we pay attention.
But we do.
Yes, we saw it. Yeah, I think I don't know if it was the director or the producer where they were like, I had my moment where it was like, no, we have to have the references in. it matters. So I love that. The role of the director was originally written as a man. Like they just kind of decided it'll be a man who does it. And then they were like, I think it'd be more interesting to have it be a woman. So they switched it to a woman. And their first choice was Sigourney Weaver. And luckily, she just agreed immediately.
That's awesome.
She was like, yes, absolutely. She showed up day one and she was like, where's the werewolf? I want to see the werewolf.
She's like
an icon.
Jamie Lee Curtis to me in that she's just this icon of just this kick-ass, wonderful woman that I want to spend time with her. I think she's amazing.
Yeah.
Love her so much.
Again, I know
I love that she did this.
A horror podcast, but if you have not seen the movie Heartbreakers, it is.
I haven't seen Heartbreakers.
Okay.
Yvette.
I don't know what year it was. It had to have been a 2000s movie. But it has Ray Liotta, Jennifer Love Hewitt, Sigourney Weaver. It's about this like crime, like these con artist mother-daughter duo.
Oh
my God. It is
okay, I'm sold.
Literally my
it's so good.
And Sigourney Weaver is iconic in it. So listeners, if you have not seen Heartbreakers, go and watch it right now.
It's so good.
Love it.
I was thinking of it. Every time I see Sigourney Weaver, I think of it. I think of Ghostbusters and Heartbreakers.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
So good.
So for both the director and the producer, this was their first time directing and producing. Both of them have obviously been writers on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So like they had experience in Hollywood and movie and, you know, creating stuff, but that was their first time directing and producing.
Oh, well done.
Good job.
Right?
Well done, boys.
Yeah. Starting out with a bang.
Uh-huh.
So one where they were like, yeah, I probably should have paid more attention. I think it was the producer who was like, I don't know, I probably should have caught that. Is this entire movie was shot in Vancouver, Vancouver, Canada, and it was cold AF. And so day one of filming, they started with the gas station scene and it was snowing.
Oh, you could see their breath. I noticed.
Yes.
that.
Yeah. So it was snowing. And the producer, I think, even asked, I'm assuming one of like the set people, or is like, should we be like worried about this? And they were like, oh, no, like we're filming 20 minutes away. It's snowing here, but it's not snowing there. And of course they show up and there's like a layer of snow. They have like hair dryers basically that they're using to like melt it all away. And like, I mean, obviously the movie
really cold.
I bet it was.
That they had to jump into, like,
and like they're dressed for summer.
Even in the lake. Like I remember being like, oh wow, okay.
Yeah. Like, so they're clearly dressed for summer, but yeah, this was filmed in chilly Vancouver.
Yeah. Wow.
So a couple other things with the location, the gas station that they used was just a house. Like that was just like a house that they found, and then they set up the gas pump. But pretty much everything else was just there, including the Confederate flag, which like is in Canada.
Nice.
I saw that Confederate flag.
Even more special that it's in Canada, I think.
Somehow
special.
Like, okay.
Yeah, that thing.
Also in this forest where they were filming, there were bears. So while they were shooting, all of a sudden it'd be like, oh, there's a bear in the scene.
Hi, bear.
Hello, bear.
Oh my gosh. That would be scary. Like,
right?
As cute as bears are.
Oh, hello, bear.
Yeah, no, don't want that.
And then another thing that was going on nearby is one of the Twilight movies was getting filmed like right there. So they kept making jokes during the director's commentary where it was like, literally, had we done like wide angle, you'd see them in the background.
Oh my God, that is amazing.
I guess they were really close by where they were filming.
I love that.
Well, you know, Spooky Sippers, we're doing that in a couple of months.
It's coming up.
Valentine's Day.
That time will come.
Mark your calendars.
Yep.
Valentine's Day will be special at Spooky Sips.
Yes.
Oh God.
To watch it with your loved one.
So part of the inspiration for this movie, which I thought was really cool, I can't remember which one of the writers, but one of them grew up in Santa Fe, New Mexico, right next to Los Alamos National Lab. And so for anyone who doesn't know, it's like a very big nuclear research lab, like very much so creating like nuclear weapons. And so the idea was you got these people who were just like, it looked like average office workers, right? Going to work, and you'd see them around town, but then they were going to work creating like weapons of mass destruction while having like talks by the cooler.
Yeah.
Nice.
I feel like they perfectly captured that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially at the beginning. Like, I feel like that is the epitome of that.
Yeah. Like, once he said that, I was like, oh my gosh. Yes, that makes perfect sense. And I talked about it earlier, the scene where they have like the little prayer after Jules dies. And I guess the reason they included that is because in right around Los Alamos, I guess this section in the US has like the highest IQ because it's a bunch of really smart people working in a national lab. Right. But it also has, I think it's like one of the highest concentrations of churches because, which normally don't really go hand in hand, but it's like there is almost like if that's the work that you're doing,
you have to have that. Like,
you kind of have to have that balance of like, I need to go pray a little bit about
to like be able to look at yourself in the mirror. You have to like,
which is just, so that's why they made sure to include that little like prayer scene was just kind of influenced from just growing up in Los Alamos.
Oh, that's so interesting. I can totally see that though.
Right? I will say I feel like that part of the movie was such an interesting vibe and perspective that I'm not familiar with, but I could tell it came from somewhere.
Yeah.
So I could tell it was legitimate. I could tell it was real, but it's just not something that is a part of what I've been through. Yeah. But they did a really good job of portraying that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I totally got what they were going for.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No, cool. I think it worked really well.
Yeah. Agreed.
So I'll jump back very early in the movie. There's a scene between Jules and Kurt, and it's when she has the textbooks. We didn't talk about it, but did you guys get the reference? When she's holding the textbook, and he's like, "Who gave that? Like, where did you get this?" And she's like, "I learned it from you."
No, it's funny because I noted how weird that scene was, and I couldn't figure out what was going on with it.
It's just a reference to like Dare. That there was like a big Dare ad, like don't do drugs thing of like a dad catching their kid with drugs, and it's like I learned it from you. So it was just like a dumb reference to that.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
But I don't know. I thought it was funny.
That is funny. Yeah, growing up in the Dare era, I appreciate that. I do have a Dare shirt. Do either of you?
I think I have a Dare shirt.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I think I do.
That's amazing.
Drug is abuse resistance education.
Yes, thank you. I didn't remember what it stood for. I was like the drug
some
one.
Of my best weed in Dare.
Oh, so good.
Okay. Oh, I forgot to write his name, but the actor who played Ronald the intern, I guess they really liked him. I didn't recognize him from anything, so maybe he's even been in other stuff. But the writers really wanted him to play this role. They just liked him. They wanted him to play it. But in Canada, which is where they were filming, there's kind of these like union rules where a certain amount of actors have to be from Canada.
Okay.
And because that was more like a minor role, like that was definitely one that would have gone to a Canadian normally. And so in order to have him play it, because he's not Canadian, they had to argue, or it was like, there is no Canadian that can play this role of Ronald the intern like this actor. So they had to write up a whole thing basically saying no one else can play this minor character in this role because they really liked him for it. Which
he's very valuable.
Yeah, no one in Canada can do it like he does.
How random.
The diary that Dana reads from, they wrote like the entire diary in like 7 minutes. It was like quick, immediately they knew what they were going for. So in that 3-day stint, they wrote the diary in just 7 minutes.
Nice.
They knew what they were going for.
Yep.
And honestly, they nailed it.
Like, no, they really did.
The diary?
It was fantastic.
Was good. The downstairs, office workers, it was shot in an actual office building, and it was an in-use office building. So they had to shoot in the middle of the night. So there were scenes like, I think that one of the final scenes, where they're finding the monsters and stuff, like part of that was shot at like 5 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
Oh God.
Yeah. So it was very like middle of the night to get through it.
Wow.
And then in the scene where I'm forgetting the name, the guy who really wanted to see the merman, where he has the machine gun.
Oh, Randall? No.
I'm forgetting his name.
Truman.
He's one of the two guys.
Yeah.
And he has the machine gun, while they're trying to like ward off the monsters while they get into like a little safety hatch.
Hadley.
He has this little machine gun, and I guess like the actor was just having too much fun with it. So they kept the direction he got was, okay, it looks like you're having like the best day of your life. Remember, this is the worst day of your life for the actor. Because he was like having too much fun with this machine gun.
Yes, I love it.
I love that. Okay, my last fun fact is also the merman. His blowhole.
Yes.
Oh,
please,
yes.
we talk about that blowhole.
That was funny.
Again, the merman in general, I love. I see why it tested so well because I loved it. They got me. But the blowhole, because they knew that it'd be spraying blood. I guess this was like a one take. situation
Oh,
because
okay.
there was blood everywhere, but as soon as they sprayed the blood, it was like, this is going to entirely change the scene, dirty the scene. There's no way to like clean it up.
No.
And so it did it in one take, but it was like they shot it for like a long, like multiple minutes.
Okay.
And the one that they ended up using was the very last one. Because I think the first, like the beginning of the spray was like a giant gush of blood that came up. And so that very last one was the like kind of like final little bits of blood that it had left.
You know, it's so funny. You don't like think of things like that when you're watching a movie. You don't like think of like the steps that they have to go through, but then you like get a lens on that and you're like, damn, like it's so complicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved the blowhole. That was like, I mean, as soon as you saw the merman, I was like, here we go. And then they somehow put a cherry on top.
That's too funny.
That's all my fun facts. There's definitely more, but I'm sticking to the DVD commentary.
No, I think you should. I think that's the best. Yeah, I think it's the most authentic.
It is.
Fun facts.
It's what the directors wanted us to know.
It is, exactly. All right. Well, that was a wild ride, you guys.
It really was.
I quite enjoyed it. Here on Spooky Sips, we don't give stars, we give sips. So, ladies, how many sips are you giving this wild ride of a movie?
Oh, man. This one's really tough because the first time I watched it, I was like, this is the best movie ever. Like, I think just because it was so surprising.
Mm-hmm.
The first go around, it was like, this movie's amazing. I think watching it again, there are things that don't hold up as well. That, you know, racism being one of them. There's a couple things that I think aged it a little bit.
Yeah.
But it is still a very solid movie. And I think they managed to land like an A+ team when it comes to the cast.
Yes.
So the acting is really well done.
Casting was amazing.
Casting is amazing. The story is interesting. Like, I hadn't seen anything like that before. And maybe there was something else. But like it was very like Twilight Zone, like what's happening, like interesting. Mm-hmm. So I feel like this one's hard. I feel like this one's a 4 just because I still really liked watching it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This one's a 4 for me.
I agree with everything you said. And I think like I was so interested in the story. However, there were moments where I was like, all right, where are we going with this? Like, what? Okay, but what next? Like, where I felt like it was just a tiny bit dragged out. So for me, it's a 3.5.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very highly rated, but like not quite in the middle, above the middle.
Yeah.
Highly recommend. I think would watch it again. Had a great time watching it. Yeah. 3.5.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I really went into this movie blind and it shook me.
I'm so fascinated by your rating because this is your first time watching it.
Yeah, it shook me. It surprised me. There was so much of this movie that I really, really liked.
Mm-hmm.
But I think kind of what goes into my ratings is would I watch it again?
Yeah.
And maybe, but probably not.
Yeah.
So for me, I really liked it. Solid movie. Surprised me. I'm going to give it a 3.25.
Oh. Yeah.
So slightly more than just a really good movie. Slightly more than a really good movie. But not like a 4.
Yeah.
Rating.
Yeah.
I'm giving it a 3.25.
Yeah. Fair.
I liked it.
That's totally fair. Mm-hmm. And I think this one is like, I mean, we say this about every movie, but like personal taste, you know, I think is really going to go into whether you like this or not.
Absolutely. And I loved a lot of this movie. Like it was quirky.
It was like a good time watching it.
It was
like I enjoyed watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, we're in the Christmas season.
And because we are in the Christmas season, in case you haven't checked out our Instagram, we have some brand new merch. He's adorable, handmade by Laura. Go check out our little ghosty on Instagram.
Next time on Spooky Sips, we're going to do a classic. We're going to go with Krampus. I have not seen it. Laura hasn't seen it. That you have.
I did. I watched it when it came out. And it is the 2015 Krampus, because I think there might be a few. Yes. So we're doing 2015.
Yes.
I haven't seen Krampus, but I used to work with a man who he didn't like Christmas, but he totally celebrated Krampus. So every time he came into the office holiday parties, he was dressed as Krampus.
Nice. I love that, honestly.
Yeah, no, he was amazing. I wonder how he's doing.
Love the dedication.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen it, get watching and get sipping. And we'll see you next time on Spooky Sips.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you for listening to Spooky Sips. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're listening. To stay up to date on all the spooky things we're up to, follow us on Facebook and Instagram at SpookySips_podcast. And if you want to help support the podcast, consider buying us a coffee, or really a cocktail. We are completely independent, so every little bit goes a long way to keeping our podcast running and improving. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.